all I can say is thank goodness the heat isn't settled yet. In a few weeks it'll probably be scorching and have to limit to early morning or afternoon walks. But at the moment it's alright. When it gets hot, you need to take your sun cream, apply sun cream every 10-20 minutes. But relatively, I mean, 5 of the 9 items that I sold last week have been left unpaid so far. So it's cute. I would be very surprised if most things don't sell, because you can't ask for any cheaper. I was watching a documentary last night about tall people, native people in North America, and you do have to sort of wonder why a lot of natives, per se, are considered these illiterate cavemen when they're quite intelligent. So, but apparently a lot of tall people were considered foreigners to the Americas, and their remains were confiscated or discredited because A, they're not historically ancient from bones from North America, and B, like they weren't that old, and B, they were foreign. So that's, I think, the reason why a lot of remains were discredited, because a lot of it was showing foreign blood links. I mean, people say that a lot of these tall people, the giant people, were foreign people, not necessarily from aliens from outer space. Essentially, people theorize they're from Iceland, and they might have journeyed to the Americas at some stage and then decided to live there. And hence, we're not really of any great importance to the heritage of the Americas. But then you got the theories that in native legend, the sky opened up and beings came down from heaven, which might be the sky. It might mean UFO, it might mean just this sky, whether it might be linked to heaven or God, or people think that there are wormholes, little holes that, that people can escape to. But none of these were Native American peoples. They're always some foreign entity. And hence, there's a lot of speculation to the authenticity of their culture groups in the Americas. And say, either way, whatever term you may call it, they seem to be foreigners to the Americas, not actually Native American people. But most Native peoples have traveled from somewhere, they're not usually born in whatever country they've been allowed to grow wild. They more likely than not transported themselves to a barren country which seemed, free of any culture group or legal system. Typically free land, you might call it, or empty land where nothing but animals and plants are residents of whatever. But a lot of people theorize that native groups are just runaways from other countries who decided to settle and live a carefree lifestyle in a very raw and native way, like survival, for years and years, and sometimes centuries, until foreigners, i.e. major culture groups, decide to go traveling to see what other lands are out there and maybe find a lost land. And they find these culture groups of what they term as native people, which are possibly just a group of escapists living in a hippie, hillbilly kind of way. So when you realize the punishment people go through when they're turned native, I mean, they could be just essentially people. And if people did find that they were from other countries where they do have government and socialism and a lot of developed cultural aspects, then what are you really trying to prove? What are you really trying to get rid of? I mean, you're getting rid of maybe people who have just decided that they want to live naturally, rather than people who are exceptionally this or exceptionally that, exceptionally dumb or exceptionally illiterate or exceptionally whatever other derogative term you can put in front of it. I mean, if they come from culture groups that are progressive, developed, then, they're not really these stupid, barbaric ape people that have grown without any exposure to culture or cultural development. They usually, yeah. I think that would find a few different ways of perceptions if people realize, hey, if we packed our bags and ran to a unknown land, or a land that didn't seem occupied of anything, and started living naturally, I mean, would you suddenly turn into native peoples, So, and that kind of seems like it could be the crux to the native cultures too. And you're like, whoa, so these people could just be seem more like runaways or escapists or hippies than all these, exceptionally dumb or retarded or animal-like beings and not people anymore. So there's some food for thought. And when you look around you, even in a developed cultural location, so many people are really stupid, and they do get driven by instincts, and they do, when they empower themselves by running on tempers, get what they want if they bully people around. I mean, you do see this very instinctual thing, but they get overlooked, if they can dress in a suit. They get overlooked from being too instinctual or, whatever. And society's filled to the brim with people like that. Or essentially very egotistical, and they get away with being really stupid, and then they dress themselves in a suit and be like, I'm the ultimate cultural icon. And you're like, well, weren't they just acting like a fucking gorilla? Like yesterday, you know? So many people like that. Not even like a gorilla, because gorillas, you know, but you get the idea that they're, you know, very instinct driven, really stupid. If something comes along and they disagree, they'll just get rid of it. Very attacking and very egotistical and still these very short-minded people who think that everything has to be gotten rid of so that they can live their life the way they've always lived it, or have culture perceived as they've, you know, cultured it to be perceived, you know. I was like, and yet these sorts of people are superheroes of your culture groups and society. And you're like, what a load of freaking rubbish sometimes. Sometimes you're like, what a load of freaking rubbish. That these people are the most and best of everything, and you're like, sometimes you're like, you know, they're total apes, you know, they're total idiots. Just because they can look better or be more impressive to a larger, expansive public, doesn't really mean that they are these great things, you know? I mean, to be honest, I mean, they're usually like hot-tempered, short-minded, and self-orientated, you know? So. But essentially, if you can, you know, be the inspiration of clusters of people, I mean, you should be someone special or someone great, but even if you're really not, at least you get to feel like that more often than not until you believe it.